Hello, good evening and welcome. Welcome to Rangers Radio. Join myself, Foxchair, on the show tonight as one of Rangers' best-known fans. I think that's fair to say. Craig Houston's joined the show in an official capacity for Club 1872. Evening, Craig. How we doing?
I'm fine. A bit humbled by what you're saying there. I bet there's a lot of people saying, "Who's this Craig Houston fella that's on the night?" I think a few people.
Let's be honest. In the last 10 years, you've covered you've had a bit of media coverage, mate. Yeah, that's fair.
Aye, that's fair comment.
That's fair. We've also got Bridge and Billy sitting in the background. This came about today, and Bridge and Billy will be ways later on when we start talking about Rangers. But look, Craig, thanks for taking the time first and foremost to come on and join us.
No problem.
I don't want to go into the history about Club 1872 and us, but look, thanks for it. Personally, how's your academy doing, mate? How's it going? How's the Sons of Struth Academy going?
It's doing far better than I expected it would 6.5 years down the line. It's grown great. When we started, humbly, with sort of 20 kids turning up once a week at Denver in the pouring rain in November, to where we are now with 260 kids, 16 teams, 30 volunteer coaches. We're all volunteers, and we chartered a plane and flew 125 kids to Benfica for a day trip. And we've had kids, 4 kids over the last 6 months been invited over there for fortnights training. We've had kids signing for pro youth level clubs, and people find it hard to believe, but the last kid that signed to a professional club was one of the boys out of 2011s, and Celtic came and signed him after scouting at one of their games. And we're a grassroots club, so progressing kids up to the next level was one of the things. When we had a blank piece of paper to say, what do we want this club to do? That was one of the first on the agenda, and one of the aims, that we would get kids playing football, but at a quality of coaching where we could, improve kids and get them up to the next step. And it took us a while, but once we started getting kids into clubs and on in trials, the whole thing snowballs, because if you've got a kid and he's got a bit of ability, and you want your kid to progress, and you see this club, if you get a decent coverage on social media, so a lot of people see the stuff we do, and if we get a name, producing wee players going to their Motherwells and St Mirren's and all these clubs, people see that, and that attracts more players. And you get a lot of clubs. I was a scout a while back in 2008 to 2010 for a professional club, and you get a lot of clubs that try to just keep their own wee players, and there's different reasons for them doing that. But I always felt it important that we had a club that actively went the opposite way and encouraged them to do it. And people think, we might lose a right good goalie, or you might lose a right good striker. You will, but it'll not be for long, because the people that have got a kid at that age, that have got got a bit of ability, see you progressing them and see you not standing in their way, and have maybe had experiences in the past, the club standing in kids' ways. And the wee message pops up on Facebook saying, "Can I bring my kid?" And that's it. We go, and it's been great. We've now got 2 to 5-year-old section with the Lion Cubs. They get professionally coached. We bring in Curva coaches to coach them. There's about 50 of them on the programme. In March this year, we started. Most of our teams have got 2 teams, so we've got an advanced team and a development team. But I think you'd like the fact that if a good kid came in and you've got this wee boy, it's not going to get much game time, then a grassroots club would say, "Cheerio, yeah, kid, that's not what we'll get involved with." So
there's the social side as well as the professional
side.
There's
psychological things. Yeah. So we started a community level around about February, March this year. Again, we bring Curva in, and they coach these kids. So these kids are getting professionally coached, and it's been a great success. We're up to about 50 on that programme as well. So there's a lot of aspects to it. It's not just about the pro youth ones. It's not just about the grassroots ones. It's not just about the 2 to 5-year-olds. We're getting a lot of different levels now that we can, and we're now going to schools with Curva and saying to schools, "Look, we want to do a programme. We'll fund it as a club, and Curva will deliver, and we'll come into your school and maybe do 6 or 8 weeks. We'll come in on a Monday, and maybe on a Monday afternoon, and do the primary 6s and 7s, and whatever you want. So that's another project we're looking to do, and that will be more sort of localised to start with, sort of Govan, Ibrox area.
I doff my hat to everybody that's involved in youth football. I was involved for 20 years myself, mate, so I know the work and the time and what goes on in the background. Listen, people might be keen to know, I don't want to revisit the journey for 2012, but how's life been for Craig Houston since the regime change, since John Gilligan, Paul Murray and Dave King walked in the door? Has life get better, simpler for you?
No, really. I had this crazy idea that through the protest years that whenever it got to its conclusion, I could take the Sons of Struth mask back off and just be for Craig Houston again. It didn't quite work out that way. What happened from a personal point of view? I was this guy that nobody knew. I would go on European trips with pals of mine, and every pub we went to, the beginnings, folk knew him, and I was just the guy that was there. So nobody knew who Craig Houston was. And we started this Sons of Struth thing, and when it was a bad board, and you suddenly get flung in front of TV cameras and spoke about in your personal life, or dissected forums and stuff like that. It's bloody weird, I tell you. And then you get your life threatened, and then you get sued for £200,000. And the way I dealt with it, I put a mask on, and I became schizophrenic by design. And then, at the start, I used to be able to take the mask off, go to my work day, whatever I was doing, and then, a newspaper would phone you, or a TV would phone you and ask you to go and do an interview and put Sons of Struth mask on and be the Sons of Struth guy. But through the time that, I ended up couldn't take the mask off. I became the Sons of Struth guy, and I wasn't Craig Houston anymore. But I always thought, it's at the end of it all, I'll just take that mask off, put it in the bin, I'll go back to my old trade and get a job again. And it didn't work out that way. And I'll give an example, a cracking example. A guy that gave me a job years ago when I was working in London at the time. I had to come home, and I phoned a guy up that I'd worked with before and had a job. Sort of middle management job in a sales environment, over the strength of a phone call. I went back in to see him again, because after all that, and he just looked at me and said, I can't employ you. Because when you're in the sort of middle management of the sales team, you're on the front foot, you talk to all the customers, and 50% of your customers might go, that guy's that Rangers supporter. The other 50%, 10% of them might think, I don't like him, they're Rangers supporters. So that my life was never going to be the same again, because I couldn't fall back into be Craig Houston.
Did you recognise that at the time, Craig, or is that something you've come to terms with as life's moved on?
Well, I remember that instance I've just told you about. That was about 6 months after regime change, and I didn't have much coin in my pocket, and my life was in a bit of tatters. And I thought, right, come on, big, and time to shake your head and get back on the horse. And I wasn't Craig Houston anymore. I was the Sons of Struth guy, and it was tough to deal with. But I hope I've got the mask off now. And I'm Craig Houston now. And this guy, I'd prefer to be Craig Houston, the grassroots football guy. That's quite a nice wee mask to put on. Enjoy that one. But I don't think, even by your introduction, would suggest that I'm no Craig Houston again. I'm still that Sons of Struth guy in your eyes, and that's a valid opinion. So it's a bit bizarre, and sometimes I feel personally I'm back to being Craig Houston, and then something will show up in your anniversary posts and Facebook, or somebody will send you a link, and you look at things that you've done in the protests and some of the challenges we faced, and you think, Christ, that was me. I forgot half the stuff. I forgot more than half the stuff we'd done because I had this mask on at the time, and that helped protect me, because I don't think the Craig Houston, the normal one, could have coped with the pressure that I was under for those few years of the protest years. But aye, so the biggest thing to me, and you mentioned it already, was the football academy. If I hadn't hit the mask years, I would never have this football academy, because me and my mate that started Sons of Struth, we're both obviously Rangers fans. We didn't become friends through Rangers, funnily enough. We became friends through coaching youth football together.
Right.
And as the journey progressed, and we started seeing a wee bit of light at the end of the tunnel, I was like, we've built this name up. There's this thing that people are comfortable with.
Brand.
Aye, for want of a better word, aye. But what can we do with it, and for a positive? And it made sense that we would start a kids football team. But even that was weird, because the idea was I like coaching the 7-a-side game, which was kids for about 10 up. And I said, we'll just we'll have one team, whatever the youngest age group is playing 7-a-sides, we'll coach them together. And we'll just keep that one team for as long as they kids are together. And, might reach under 16s and if all fell out of football, you might get to under 12s, you don't know. And that was the idea. But my mate, unfortunately, his mother and his brother both passed away quite soon, and his head wasn't in the right place. So I just put out a wee shout out on my Facebook page one day saying, look, I'll be in the district bar at 7:30 Thursday night. I'm wanting to start a football team. I'll need help with coaching. I'll need help with, a secretary, a treasurer, all these things. And, we'll need players, but now we need to get the structure in place. If anybody wants to help me, I'll be in the pub at 7:30 and Thursday, whatever it was, and I think about 20 people turned up. I was like, oh God, right, okay, so there's this, let's just do it. And that, so what we originally set out to do, it turned into something bigger. And right at the start, I thought, right, we need to get this right. So we're using a name that, we need to protect the name. And I'm not talking about the Sons of Struth name, I'm talking about the Struth part of that. Aye. So, what do we want to install in kids? What would Struth do? That's something that I asked myself a lot. What would Struth do if he was running a kids' football club in 2022? And if I use that as in my decision-making processes, and our volunteers do the same, we'll not get much right. We'll never achieve what Struth would achieve if he ran a kids' football club in 2022, because the man is, far better man than I'll ever be. But it's a good ethos to take, and and because of the stuff that Sons of Struth done, we've been able to do loads of things that gave us probably an unfair advantage on normal grassroots clubs. We've got Marco Negri and Mikey Mills and John McDonald as ambassadors. We have Willie Henderson coming and giving the kids their trophies, and Big Marvin visiting them, and Alec Ray visiting them, and Reader Auntie there helping us, whenever we need it. Which, if it wasn't for Sons of Struth, the protest years, we would never have that position. So we need to install that in the kids as well. That even that we can teach the kids lessons for Sons of Struth, the protest years. And we talk to them about the formation of the club, where it started from, what was Sons of Struth before we taught them football. I mean, some of the kids we've got now weren't even alive when we were protesting.
No, I know. Right, okay. So
it's not just Rangers fans. We talk to them about these things in life. People that are bad people. It's worth standing up against evil, and it's worth for something that's it's an institution. It's worth protecting. And so far, so good, mate.
Principles, not a bad thing to have. Right. So fantastic what you've done, grassroots.
Thank you.
You go. I doff my cap to anybody that's done it. I was heavily involved, as I said, for 20 years myself.
Yeah.
But right, so you're on tonight to talk about specifically Club 1872, yeah, and fan ownership, right? Obviously, there's talk on social media, and I'm not interested in that. I'm here to ask you a direct question. How did this opportunity for you to get involved in this role come about?
Well, what happened with Club 1872, first of all, and why they wanted somebody for this role? The organisation is, the board are all volunteers, and you'll know through volunteering that sometimes you might have the best plans in the world and the visions and things you want to do, but as a volunteer, there's only a certain amount of time in the day you can give to your volunteering hours, and unfortunately, when that's kids' football, it ends up more than you should. But by the by, generally that's what people do. So you might say, right, this month or this quarter we want to do that. Then something would happen, and you get dragged off to something else, and that might be something else with the organisation, it might be something else your private life or your business life. And I think they felt that if they get people to come in from the outside, not on the board, then you task somebody with something, then the expectation is you go and do it. So I think that's where the thought process, I certainly find that a lot with my volunteering stuff, that you've got the greatest will in the world, you want to do X, Y, and Z, but sometimes you only get to X, and sometimes you get to X and Y. So they polled their members. For those that are members, I probably remember, I think it was before Christmas now, so it's good 6 months ago, and they said, look, we want to put X amount of money in a pot, and we want to look at bringing in X outsiders to help do some of the things that would help the organisation.
This was a full-time, part-time paid role?
Well, originally the advert that they brought out was for one person, doing like a general manager type thing.
Okay.
So a pal of mine had said to me, have you seen this? And I went, no. And applied for it, and so did other people. And what they'd done through the process was identified that instead of giving one person the job and doing all these things, there was people in the in the pot that person might be good at that bit, and that person might be good at that bit, and that person might be good at that bit. So they broke it down. And I'm the second person to join, and I think there was scope to maybe have 3 people involved doing different things. And obviously, now that you've not got one person full time, then obviously these roles are part time. So that's how it came about, and I was delighted because we've all got our strengths and weaknesses, and some of the things that Claire, who came on board, can do. She's fantastic, infinitely better doing the stuff that she can do than I would ever do. And that's how it came about. Interviewed twice over the course of a couple of 3 weeks. Then I think it was maybe a week after that, and they went away to talk about, would they be better? Because I think when the process started, they were just one and away you go and do everything. So it took a wee bit of thought, and can we do this? Would it make sense to do it? And then they came back to me and said, look, this is what we want you to do. That's part of the job, and this is what we would like to you to do for the organisation, and that's how we got to where we are.
And obviously the budget comes into play as well, because they've only got so much budget to spend on people's
that's
time.
Right.
Yeah,
right. And, you're taking into mine or anybody else's personal details. If you remember, the email you got originally was to allocate for 1 12-month period a sum of £50,000, and that wasn't even just to pay one person. If one person took on the job entirely, that was to pay for things like advertising, marketing, and all these things that person might want to do. You then work that out and divide that by 3, take off a bit off the top of it. We're not talking about life-changing amounts of money here.
You'll not be going to the Seychelles when you get your holiday pay, will you?
No, I had to cancel my members club season ticket there. I couldn't quite afford it this year. I don't have one, by the way. That's a joke. There's some people, or there was a rumour sometime about how I'd get a free members lounge or some nonsense. There we go.
Don't believe everything you read, right?
I wish it was. I wish off it was true, because I'd be some man. I'd have some amount of stuff in my life.
Right. So, what's your exact role, and what's the objectives of that role?
The business development. My background from before my 17th birthday, the vast majority of my working life was in sales and different industries. But the vast majority of my working life was involved in sales, as from shop floor up to assistant managers and business managers and sales managers, and I had a job with a firm sales director. It was like a medium-sized firm. It wasn't the ICI or anything exciting like that. But that was where my background was. So that was just the things that attracted them to me to the role, to put me in the role. So my role is to develop the business. And what that means is, can we get more members? Can we make the thing bigger? And that's what I've been tasked with, identifying ways that we can do that and going and getting it done. And hopefully 6 months to a year down the line, we can sit down and look at and hopefully there's been a difference. And if I've had a bit of influence on that, then great.
Right, okay. So obviously there's been criticism, what every Rangers organisation gets. Yeah, we all get it. We get it. Club 1972 get it. But and the Rangers forums, the Rangers pages, everybody gets it at times, So how do you allay some of the fears that some people have got about your organisation?
What are the fears?
Right, I'm not a member, and I should be a member, shouldn't I? Financially, it wouldn't make any difference to me being paying $19.72 a month. Yeah,
you can pay a tenner a month if you want. But I mean, that I think this is something I said when they were getting together their opening. When they were telling people Craig's here, and they asked me for a few words. As an organisation, we should make it's almost a standard thing. If you're a Rangers fan, you're a Club 1872 member.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's nothing wrong with aiming for the stars and hitting the moon, right? So we've got to put a proposition in place that makes that almost nonsensical that you wouldn't be both. And that, I hear some people, that's why I'm asking you, what are these issues? Because I hear some things and you think, really? That's actually untrue. That's plainly, a misunderstanding of what this thing does. And I hear other things like, maybe they spoke about earlier about, the way the votes are done at AGMs and stuff like that. So some of the things I can understand, and some of the things I don't understand because they're simply inaccurate. And that doesn't mean somebody's telling lies. That just means somebody's misunderstood something somewhere. So, what are the fears? You've not done it. I don't know why, but is it, have you done it because of something you're not clear with, or something you're not happy with, or is it just?
I don't like, personally, and I think, and this is a personal view, I don't like the model. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't like the model, the individuals no owning the shares, and I'm also concerned about how it could be controlled in the future if you've got a couple of rogue agents in there.
Right. Okay. So there's two things there. There's the first thing was the way the model in terms of what the voting of it.
The way that if somebody was a member for, say, decided to put £100 a month in, a number, and stayed involved for 5 years, they would put in £6,000, and all of a sudden they have no control of these shares if they lost their job and had to walk away for Club 1872 because they can't afford that. These shares go into the pot and they're lost.
Well, to be honest with you, if that was somebody's objection, my advice to them would be to go and buy their own shares.
Correct. That's I've got my shares.
You and me both, right? Mm-hmm. But because that gives you complete control. If you think you want to put the money in and have that wee safety net that you might want to take it back out for whatever, and might lose your job, health, whatever, then my advice would be buy your own shares, right? The advantage of doing it as a group of shares all bought together is, for example, if you've got, I think most days did when the shares first came out, I think they were £500 minimum at the time, so anybody that's got shares as fans probably get 500 of them. If you, with these shares, fundamentally disagree with something in the running the Rangers Football Club, and I don't mean yesterday or today or tomorrow, it could be 10 years from now because, the shares have changed hands and whatever, then there's not really much you can do. But if your shares are grouped together and you've got at least 5%, and you're upset about something fundamentally wrong with the club, you can hold an EGM.
Yes, correct.
Correct. You or I don't know your circumstances, so it's wrong for me to say you and I, but I can tell you mine.
No, we don't own 5% between us.
Correct. I've not got the sort of dosh as your George Taylor's, for good example, obviously, after today's announcement.
I haven't.
Right, so he's in a position he can financially have 5% of the club, right? And then he has the power to do these things. If he's so, I'm never near that. So that's a benefit in Club 1872 that you don't have with going and buying your own shares. But if anybody was wanting to commit the £6,000 worth of shares and have the ability that if anything was to go wrong in their life and they wanted these £6,000 back or whatever the shares were worth at the
time, yes,
then I would, my advice, and I'm not a financial advisor, I need to reiterate that, but as a guy in the street, and if it was one of my pals, in a family saying, I'd say, that's not for you, right? What Club 1872's role is for people that want to put a small donation in, £10 a month, £20 a month, 1872, whatever you want. And it's to give the community of Rangers fans the protection that if we get enough shares we've got, and it's not even about control or ownership, it's about having accountability. And
that you get when you get that magical figure,
Aye, you've got cut-off points at 5%. It gives you control. You get cut off, at 10%, 20%, 25%, and I was talking to somebody asked me about George Taylor earlier on, a pal of mine in a WhatsApp group I'm in, and I said, I can't remember. I said, I know he's got a right few shares, so I went and put a screenshot of the share listing, and every single person, I think even all the way down to Barry Scott, we're about 3 to 4%, and I've looked and I went, I know any of them, and you know what? They're all Rangers fans.
Aye.
And if you add up those shares, guess what? You've got more than 50%. So in real terms, today, Rangers fans have got ownership of Rangers.
We own more than 50%, but
you own, right.
You know as well as I do that if you had 2 Rangers supporters land in a desert island, after 2 weeks you'll have 3 Rangers supporters clubs.
Oh, aye. But and that that's the bit we've just got to put a big boy pants on sometimes. No. Rangers supporters, I still don't think get it. How tremendous their impact can be when something needs done. See, when Rangers fans and when I say unite, I don't even mean 100%. I just mean enough. See the differences they can make. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Dave King told us the day he took control. He had the money. Him, Paul Murray and John Gilligan, got voted onto the board at that AGM 6 years ago, and he's admitted at the time. He spoke to me personally about it. He even spoke to my father when I introduced him, and my dad thanked him for saving the Rangers. He says, Mr. Houston, if it wasn't for the fans and what they'd done, I wouldn't be here. And then you've got things like the Sydney thing. The fans, now you can argue all day whether tennis boys are good at football matches or not. One thing you cannot argue about, and that was the only thing that was going on at the time with the Sydney thing, right? But the Rangers fans, in the majority, again, you'll find people that were delighted they were going to Sydney. But enough people cared to do enough about it that changed as well. And I don't think the Rangers fans appreciate just really how much an impact we can get with. And by the way, even with the B-side squabbles, and I don't like him, and I'm not getting involved in that because of personality and all that nonsense that we've all seen and probably been involved in online. The Rangers support can make a phenomenal difference. Even by the two fans ending up with 3 Rangers supporters clubs, and I get that more for outsiders. When I was doing my thing, I became very friendly with a lot of Newcastle fans and even some Liverpool fans. Newcastle fans was obviously an easier one because of the situation at the time. And they actually, to this day, speak about it and go, what you've done was nuts, And they get it more than I think we get it sometimes. But then that's, maybe I see that because how involved I was at the time. And I certainly had a lot of people had it. I went to Barhead to watch Afterlife for the first half, and the Saturday one of your coaches was playing, and a wee random guy came up to me in the crowd, and he was a bear, and he was like, "You're Craig Houston, aren't you? Listen, thanks very much for everything you've done." And I was like, "Mate, I spoke right there." I was just allowed. If it wasn't for the amount of people that done whatever we were doing at the time, I would just have been a loud guy. That's all it is. So, I appreciate what you're saying, but so I don't think if even the Rangers fans give themselves credit for the regime change and all the things. Everybody done something.
Yeah. There was a lot of people done a lot of stuff that you maybe didn't see. Yeah. But listen, what about obviously you've got legacy issues for RST, Rangers First. They both get pluses and minuses. I know some of the people involved in both organisations.
Yeah.
And I've been friends with some of the people involved in both organisations. But what about the criticism that will be at Club 1872 with the legacy issues that people, if you're putting in hard-earned cash constantly, monthly, and then people who put in X number of years ago have still got the same voting rights that you've got. I don't expect you. This is your personal view on it. I don't expect you to comment too much on it, but it is a criticism.
Listen, and I think I spoke that before as well. Even you could have been an RST member. I'm sure I get it the right way around. I think their life membership back when they were doing it was £500, and then Rangers First became a thing, and you could get a life membership for £100. So when these two bodies were getting put together, because that's how Club 1872 started, that was spoke about back then. And there's no really, it's like, I totally understand it. You've got the same rights as a guy paid. If you're an RST guy, £500, you're going, well, he done that for 100. But I don't think, is there, what else could be done? What's the alternative? Saying you get half a vote? You get 20%, says him. That's why the thing then, the one man, one vote thing had to be like a thing. Because would it be fair that just because you were a life member of Rangers First, you get any less say than somebody who was a life member of Rangers Supporters Trust? So I know it's not perfect, but the alternative, you're going to have people unhappy either way. And I think my own personal opinion is it's probably the best way of doing it in an imperfect world.
But how does that role in the positions help you attract new members?
Well, we don't have that anymore. You either bought that 10 years ago or you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think the only people that would actually be that het up about it, that might be in the decision-making process, this thing that happened 10 years ago with some of the Supporters Trust members, they're not going to phone me up and ask me questions about joining, because they might, if it was really that big an issue to you. And how many people is that really a big issue to, again, you know, in the whole scheme of things? And I'm not saying that's
you'll never know.
It's important, yeah, it's important to them.
Know.
But in the whole scheme of things, it's like, I can't change, you know, God grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change. You know what I mean?
You're sitting, and by the way, this came about today, so if you've not got all your facts and figures in front of you, and I fully understand that, but have you got numbers in mind, and how many people are involved, and what your growth, and what percentage of growth you're looking for in the short term, medium term, and long term?
No, what I've asked for is that the figures to be, when you're going on a journey, you need to start at point A and get to point Z. So you need to know where both things are before you plan where you're going to get there. Mm-hmm. So what I want to do is sit down, identify, and it's an ever-changing thing. I'll explain why in a minute. But you know, how much have we got coming in? How many members have we got contributing? How many have we got life members that might want to contribute? All these things. And once I know where that is, I can then sit down with the board and say, right, what's a realistic and smart objection? What's measurable? You know what I mean? What's realistic? And give me a target. As I say, I've been in sales before my 17th birthday. I quite enjoy having targets. It's what drives me. So we need to do that. We need to establish that, you know, quick. So these conversations have already started. Conversations already taking place. And the thing that's important to me is not so much many members, right? Because you could have one member giving you £1 million a month, or you could have 1,000 members giving you £5 a month. So the number isn't that. You know, a lot of people like, you know, many numbers. What's a number? Fine, we'll find out. I'll find out. The most important one to me is, what have we got coming in? Because that's more, I think, more important than the numbers when you're actually wanting to go and buy shares and do projects. You need the money. So the money is the most important one. So what is the monthly contributions? And then sit down and we'll put a target in place. I've already considered how I want to get the numbers up and things that I want to do, and I've already started discussing things with the board.
Coming on here, mate, and speaking to people that maybe never even thought about it before, yeah?
It's funny that, isn't it? Because, you know, I remember when back when Club 1872 was getting started, and people want to talk about online all the time, and they want to talk about Twitter, and they want to talk about Facebook, and I'm nearly half a century old, you know, I quite actually, can we talk to people? You know, can we get leaflets printed out and maybe hand them out to people again? Because there's 50,000 folk come in here in a month, and you know, in a game, and I know we've not got 50,000 members. Do you know what I mean? So these are things that are always important to me, and maybe that's just an age thing. But I think things we can get up too much, and we can't see that there is a difference between online and real life.
Yeah, there definitely is, mate. There definitely is.
Yeah.
Do you think that when they decided, when they talked to Dave King about buying his shares, do you think it's a big ask, mate?
Massive ask.
And especially what's happened in the last 18 months with the world's changed. People maybe no have the same cash spare that they had 18 months ago, yeah?
Yep, 100%, yeah.
You know, do you think they've got a chance of achieving that, or do you think it's pie in the sky?
I still think it's a big ask. But that doesn't mean, again, you know, aim for the stars to reach the moon. No. If you get some of these shares. But again, people think that no, well, Club 1872 are just want to collect money so they can get Dave King and buy Dave King shares. But Club 1872 has got two things it can do with money, and with shares, they don't need to just buy them all. I mean, if Rangers were wanting to issue shares tomorrow and approached their major shareholders, which Club 1872 are one of, and said, look, we want to release some money, we want to new shares, could you want to buy them? Then great, because that's twofold. One, you get Club 1872 more shares, and guess where the money goes? Right? So, you know, that's an option with the shares. So it's not all about, let's bring in millions of pounds and get all of Dave King. Because I've heard that been, you know, muted as why we, some people don't or do not want people to join Club 1872. But Club 1872 can still buy shares from the club. If I actually read what was in that agreement, which is public, knowledge, it's out in the public domain, you can quite clearly see that. But if you visit certain forums, or do you listen to certain podcasts, or do you, go into certain social media things, they'll tell you that all the money that's going into Club 1872 now has to go to Dave King. It's not true. And the other thing, the thing that actually, at the start of the whole thing 6 years ago, that got me interested was the aspect of the projects. And this is something a lot of people don't realise. I think every penny goes into clubs 1872, they have to buy shares with it. You don't. And the person that decides how your money's spent is actually you. Because when you donate, unless the legacy thing is a standalone thing that's there to get the money to buy the Dave King shares, but you go in and click the button for a normal membership or the normal contribution, sorry.
You're no purchasing Dave King shares, yeah.
Well, what you actually get the choice of there is you can have your contribution ring-fenced for either shares or projects.
Mm-hmm.
And mine's is ticked for projects. Now, a project could be, they have the ability that, let's say they £500,000 in the project pot, and the club were to say, we're going to
improve the facility for disabled fans. Yeah.
No, that's one that people always think of. But also, let's say 2 years from now, the club said, look, we're going to issue new shares, we're going to, extend the stadium to 60, 70,000, so we're going to do X, Y, Z. That money, you could then convert that money from the project. You would need to ask your members, though. You need to put that vote. See, this money we've got sitting in projects. This could be termed a project because there's this, fundraising effort by the club and they'll get shares back. Or, as you said, there might be things like, improving, the
facilities for disabled fans,
or whatever. Or, they want to, Rangers decide they want to revamp Edmondson Drive. Does that benefit to Rangers Football Club and the Rangers fan community? Because that's the only test of what you do as a project. You need, you can't just go, I don't know, we'll buy Dougie Park a new Jaguar, right? Your test as a community interest company is to divert money to any project. It must be a benefit to the Rangers Football Club or the Rangers community. And it's not, that can open up to anything you want. If they wanted to build another stand at the training ground, and Club 1870 had enough money in the and that was why I took out a membership on day one and ticked the box. Can my money go to projects? Because I love that. I think that's great. Especially 6-7 years ago when we hadn't received £30 million worth of transfer fees or an extra £20 million on top of European money we get into the final. Bear in mind the state we were in 6 years ago.
Yes.
We reached for the grass and it cost 50 grand. I'd give you a couple of pound,
So what about one of the other criticisms that, again, we'll have it in conversations and we've had with people on here, maybe no online as such, but what about the people who would rather just put their money direct to the club, Craig?
In what way? Because we all do that anyway. I buy my season ticket and I contribute to Club 1872. You know what I mean?
The people I spoke to, when this broke today, my phone's been busy, and I spoke to people who are members of Club 1872, people who are ex-members of Club 1872 who now purchase £20 a month lotto tickets. I had that for half a dozen people today. I'm not expecting it, but so they would now have decided to put their money straight into the club. Maybe they feel the club's in safe hands now that it wasn't 6 years ago,
Yeah, and if you don't have any concerns about what could happen in the future at Rangers Football Club, don't come near Club 1872. Right? Because you won't justify spending £10 a month or £20 a month if you think the world's perfect, and guess what? Rangers Football Club's in safe hands and I don't need to worry about ever revisiting 2012. That's fine. Not today. Go and do it, man. And by the way, I do the lotto, right? I've got a lotto agency that raises, we get people to join through the Sons of Struth Academy, and then guess what?
The commission goes to good cause,
Aye. So we do all that. So, I mean, I'll never tell anybody, today, cancel your lotto, £2 a week, and give that to Club 1872. That'd be crazy. You know what I mean? But my driver for joining Club 1872 is I was on the streets with tens of thousands of other bears. I stopped buying my season ticket for 6 months to get rid of them. I stopped buying kit. I done all these things. And my biggest fear and driver is I don't want my boy to do the same. I don't want my boy to have to resurrect Sons of Struth in 20 years' time when I'm too old to do anything about it. Do you know what I mean? And
we'll get a better looking mask than the Craig Houston one for your boy,
Thanks. If you it'd be hard push to get a worse one. You know what I'm saying? So the things drive different people. And one thing that drives me is I don't want the next generation to go through what we did. And when I was looking at that list, as I said, when the boys was asking about George Taylor the other day, so I went and looked at the list of shareholders. I went, Blue Nose, Blue Nose, Blue Nose, Blue Nose, Blue Nose, Blue Nose, Blue Nose. Brilliant, right?
Good guy, good guy, yeah.
Aye, that was the one. And, so, but that's today.
Yes, and because you're a PLC, we're not a PLC, because we're a company, a limited company, things can change quite quickly.
Aye. No, I think, take Dougie Park for an example. He's a good example on one side. Obviously, his boys involved, so God forbid anything was starting to Dougie Park, then you would think, his boys there, Graham's there, everything's, that's where his shares would go. But there's people, I don't know their personal circumstances. Do you know what I mean? And how does that picture change? If we could, if we could jump on a McLaren, DeLorean, sorry, Lang Silver Motor, I was thinking about that, and go 20 years in the future and have a look at where the shares are. I don't know where they're going to end up, right? But one thing I do know is, see if the fans have got enough between them and, a concerted style Club 1872 in that vehicle, then, listen, we can still have thoughts inside Club 1872, because I think Rangers should play in a slightly darker shade of blue than you. But at the end of the day, we want a safe club and a club going forward in 10, 20 years. So I quite see that as quite a good vehicle to do that. And, if that doesn't concern you and that doesn't cross your mind, then even if it did cross your mind, I still wouldn't expect anybody to stop the lotto, thing. So, can you find an extra tenner? Can you find an extra 20 quid? I don't know. But I'm not saying I get sleepless nights over it now, like I used to, but I still concern myself for the future of Rangers Football Club. And I see Club 1872 as a damn decent vehicle to give us some protection. And you know what? I might not like their logo. I might not like that director. I might not like the fact that one guy's got a membership at 500 quid and that guy's gets 100 and he gets the same shit. I might, but I've got a pal in Belfast that I talk to a lot, and he's got a great term, and it's, are we majoring on the minor? And, if we're going to major on the minor, let's just throw the towel in now, and we'll no bother asking anybody to join Club 1872, because this Section 41/B, subsection 2, on the articles, I don't like that, and I don't like that director because he took my parking space once, getting into Asda, and let's just, are we majoring on the minor here?
No, but I would say that one of the criticisms I personally got to the model, as I said it already, Craig, and this is only me, is the fact that I don't know, all the things you've talked about the legacy, about protecting the club, I don't think any Bears would have an issue with that. I've got an issue personally about if I've got involved in anything with voting rights and also the transfer of shares. Club 1872 could have shares for people as long as they've got the right to pass these shares on to who they want. They're no Club 1872.
Are you talking about the actual in Rangers though?
No, and within both, because the same issue you've got with the club about the wrong people get their hands on the club again to stop that. We've got the same issue with Club 1872.
You could have, aye. You
never know who's going to be in control of that.
That's right. And but this is the thing as well. See that statement though. To me, that's a concern, right? But as long as it's a Rangers fan, I really don't mind who runs Club 1872, because some of them will be good and some of them will not be really, not be that good. And some of them will be good at some things and some of them will be good at other things. And some of them will agree with in some matters and disagree with in some other matters. But you know what? We'll never find a perfect Club 1872 director. So, as long as we can make sure it's Bears, we've got to put the big boy pants on and hope that the ones that put their name up and get voted in are good enough for the task. And if they're not, after a year or two, we'll try with somebody else, right? But this search for perfection is a realistic expectation, okay, of anybody, in particular when it's volunteers we're talking about, right?
Aye, who are putting themselves above the parapet. I get that.
They've got things in place to try and make sure at least it's Bears that's getting in. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Rangers Football Club doesn't have that. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you have to support Rangers to have anything to do with Rangers Football Club. I think I would quite like it. But, that's maybe impractical. If somebody came along next week and said, look, I want to invest £20 million in your club and, I'm from New York.
I've moved to the west of Scotland. We're not going to say no, are we?
I tell them no. But I think when you're talking about a supporter's body, then by definition, you've got to try and be a supporter. And I think I see it a lot. And by the way, this is nothing new. We've seen it with with Rangers Supporters Trust. We've seen it with Rangers First. We see it with forums. People want to personalise everything. I'll tell you an example, right? I held a public meeting in, I think it was the old Swallow Hotel before they redecorated and shut for a couple of years. We put out the thing, and I said, any Rangers fan is welcome if you have any concerns about the running of Rangers Football Club. We're having this meeting, whenever it was, Tuesday night, 6 o'clock, Belarus Hotel, see you there. There's only one thing you need to have, and that's a concern about Rangers, get yourself in. Put the thing online. I got a guy contacted me, and he says, is Mark Dingwall coming? I says, I don't know how. Well, I need to know, because if he's coming, I'm no. I thought, well, if Mark Dingwall does come, it's because he's got a concern in the current situation with Rangers, and you're looking to come, so you must have the same concern. But what you're saying is, if another individual is anywhere near that meeting, you're not coming. How berserk's that? And we do that. That was my first, by the way, this was back to late 2000, so maybe 2013. And I thought, that's peculiar. But I soon found out that that's the way Rangers fans are with almost everything. And it's probably magnified in
online.
Yeah. I thought, how bizarre is that? Now, see Mark Dingwall, I can agree with Mark Dingwall on certain things and I can disagree with other things. But see if Mark came to me tomorrow and said, Craig, I want to do this. Do you think that's worthwhile? I wouldn't be analysing Mark and thinking, do I like you today or do I dislike you today? I'd be looking at what he was up putting in front of me and say, that's a good thing. I'll have a bit of that. But we just, who's this? I mean, is such and such involved? See him, he's no one of the RST boys, he's one of the Rangers First boys. You think, what? I've seen people fall out in Rangers pubs because of their favourite forum.
Well, aye. Right, okay. Well, what we'll do is I've got a couple more questions for you and then we'll get the phone lines opened, yeah?
Oh, man.
Yeah, right, okay. Right, so obviously one of the aims was to try and get somebody on the board, and I just don't know, mate. I just don't know how that would ever work.
Was it?
Well, try and get the board to talk to somebody individual. I think that was always there, wasn't it?
No, but what you said before then was to get somebody on the board. Is that a name? Was it? Was it ever a name?
I think that it's been mentioned in public before by the organisation. Am I correct? I don't
think it has. I don't think it has. I might be wrong.
No. All right. Okay. Right. So, do you think? How do you think it would work then? The tie-up if you got the aim within the shares between the club and the supporters, because sometimes the business, the club, they have to make decisions that the supporters will not like, won't they? Because it's beneficial for the club. Yeah. Yeah. How would that work?
It would work. We're putting our big boy pants on and, agreeing that sometimes the club will need to do things that we don't.
Yeah, and I agree. You have to have grown up, and if you're involved, you will get decisions you don't like. It's the same as any organisation, huh?
Well, yeah. Listen, you find a perfect organisation and I'll take a couple of pound of but
No. Right, okay. And so how do you see this going? Again, I asked you before, short term, to get more membership in. Obviously, there's a lot of things come online since Club 1872. My Gears, there's other vehicles for people to buy into. Other people have tried to start unsuccessfully, I may add, to a certain degree, other Rangers fans' ownership schemes, yeah?
I'm not with the other ones, so you need to excuse my ignorance on that.
No, there is some smaller ones about, but obviously, and as I go back to my original point about people splitting up and falling out, and your point about people having problems with certain individuals, you're always going to get that. That's life.
Yeah.
But what's the aims now that to get to the shareholders? And what's your role, short term, long term? I asked you that already.
Well, my role could be as long as 6 months. It could be as long as 12 months. It could be as short as next week, because I could get the sack tomorrow. I could say something on this radio show today that went against the Club 1872's ethoses, and I could get disciplined like anybody else. But if everything goes well, the whole thing was agreed that the members would allow Club 1872 to use, do this sort of project for 12 months. And, I think that, we got to the end of it and there was absolutely no increase.
No change in membership. Yeah. You shake hands, you move on, yeah?
Aye, that makes sense. Like, we gave it a go and it unfortunately didn't work out. But I would like to think that it does work out. And I think, like most projects, that there's a lot of heavy lifting at the start, right? And once you get the boulder moving, it can start picking up a bit of momentum. So it might get to the point that, seen 12 months from now, I'm the type of character, and only people that know me very well will verify this. I'm the type of character that might sit down with Club 1872 in 12 months' time and say, by the way, we've got X amount of more members, and it's all grown organically now. You don't need me. Don't save your money. I'll go and do something else. Or whatever it is we put in place needs managed, and we'll sit down in 12 months and say, yeah, I'm big and ugly enough and honest enough to, if it wasn't to work out, it's a fixed term contract there. If it was not getting renewed because I hadn't done, what they thought I would do, fine. But hopefully there is, and then I'll need to sit down and say, do they still need somebody to do this, or is the boulder moved? Is the thing gathering enough pace now that, and as I say, I'm a type of person that I wouldn't have a problem putting that to the board in 12 months. That would be actually a nice conclusion. But short term, me, get myself in, find out where we are, put a plan in place to, where I think, and with the board's agreement, where we think is achievable, and I'll do everything in my power and strength and personality to get us there. As I think the organisation, whether or not Craig Houston in 12 months is here or not here, I think they've got to keep buying shares, because as the club have been releasing more shares.
Yep. And they'll keep doing that, mate. They will keep doing.
So if you don't keep buying shares and taking part in share issues, then your 5% soon becomes 4, soon becomes 3, soon becomes 2. So the Club 1872 has to keep purchasing shares to enable it to improve its percentage, because that is the important thing. It's not having 20 million shares, it's having 5% or 20% or 25%, so you can do some of these things on your power. And just as I say, my ambition, as I said in the statement that came out when I joined, was to make it almost just, it goes hand in hand. You're a Rangers fan, you're a Club 1872 member. And if we can get, imagine if we could get 10% of the Rangers fans to be Club 1872 members, how powerful that would be to protect Rangers going forward. So, the Parts sell their shares, Dave King sells his shares, Barry Scott sells his shares, George Taylor sells his shares. 10 years it takes to do all that, and but we know we've got 10, 15, 20% or whatever it is there. And it doesn't matter if I'm popping my clogs between now and then, that body still has that power. I don't think that's a bad thing.
All right, mate. Listen, I've enjoyed the conversation, mate.
Thank you.
Well, one thing that's been criticised, the criticism of Club 1872, and remember, I'm not wanting to get into the personalities, because that's wrong, because I know you have to defend ourselves. Communication could improve. Would that be fair?
I think that would be fair to fling at Club 1872, to fling at Rangers Football Club, to fling at Sons of Struth Football Academy. I think that's very true. But what I will say is, up until now, apart from one person, we allow that works in the office to do all the admin stuff. It's a volunteer organisation. Now, I'm not saying you've got slack and you've got to, there's things legally that a business has to do, and they all get done, but you've got to consider that at times, and that can be difficult for some people, because they go online and they see a professional website and they see, the other direct debits, card payments and all that you would if you were shopping at Curry's. And just got to remember, sometimes see these people that are getting slaughtered online, that have put, there's been many of them in the 6 years of Club 1872, and before that Rangers First, and before that Supporters Trust. Yep. These people that some people want to sit behind a keyboard and slaughter are volunteers.
Yeah.
So, but your question
with the best intentions. With the best intentions, yeah. The volunteers with the best intentions, yeah. Sometimes get it wrong, yeah. And it's no, that's
the professionals with the best intentions get it wrong from time to time.
Big time, big style. Maybe even worse. The politicians who run the country maybe get it wrong sometimes.
You're going to drag me to politics?
No, we're not going there. Right. All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a break. We'll have a tune. You might know the tune. I don't know. You might know. And then we'll come back and we'll get the phone lines opened, yeah?
What did you say? I might know the tune.
You might know it.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but you might know it.
The guy running the show doesn't know what it is. What chance have I got?
No. We're volunteers as well.
Yeah.
Right, we'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay,
Take it away, Old School Boy.
My old man would dress me up every Saturday. To the Rangers games we'd go both home and away. His passion was passed down to him, and he passed it on to me. And I would pass it on to my family. Were your Rangers colors, never put them to shame. And if there should be conflict, make sure you're not to blame. Judge no one by their color, or no one by the creed, but how you would expect them to treat you and me. There's nothing quite like winning, but remember it's a game. The game is there to be enjoyed, but with every game there's pain. Raise yourself above abusing those who try their best, and shout words of encouragement to the team who wears your crest. Wear your Rangers colors, never put them to shame. And if there should be conflict, make sure you're not to blame. Judge no one by their color, or no one by their creed, but how you would expect them to treat you and me. And what's been put together, let no one tear apart. Make sure the words you speak come only from your heart. You may be tempted by some sections of a crowd to raise yourself above them. There's a way to make me proud. When you hear the fans singing, make sure you sing out loud. For our passion and our history is what it's all about. Wear your Rangers colors, never put them to shame. And if there should be conflict, make sure you're not to blame. Judge no one by their color, or no one by their creed, but how you would expect them to treat you and me. Wear your Rangers colors, never put them to shame. And if there should be conflict, make sure you're not to blame. Judge no one by their color, or no one by their creed, but how you would expect them to treat you and me.
Why don't you give us a call on 0141 356 1972. It's your show, it's your platform. Let's hear from you.
I apologise. I never knew that song.
No problem.
Aye, right, okay. We'll get the phone lines opened. Well, thanks for being so candid. Yeah.
What, me?
Aye, thanks for being so candid.
Did you expect anything else?
No, not at all. But also, thanks for your time.
No problem.
It was good to hear from you. People make up their own mind. They're all adults, and it's up to them whether to coin a phrase, they pull on their big boy pants. But we might get some phone calls and people want to ask you questions. We're going to bring in Billy and Bridge, and we're going to start talking about the Rangers, mate, if that's all right with you, yeah?
I'd love to talk about the Rangers.
Evening, Billy. Evening, Bridge.
How you doing, Ox? How you doing, Craig?
I'm not bad, sir. Thank you.
Have you got any questions for Craig, Billy?
No, I think you covered everything there, mate. That's your side, Ox.
Bridgeman, I know you've got enough money to buy the 5% outright, mate.
I have to say, Craig, it was very interesting listening to you. Some of the parts there, well, never have any nothing to do with me. I don't think I'll ever be involved with Club 1872. But I think the work you've done all the way through it all, through the protests and admirable to say the least. You helped to keep Rangers. That's what the main thing.
I'm humbled when you say that, and I always get a bit nervous when people say that, because I just feel as if I was loud. I'll give you that. I was definitely loud. But and I never told anybody ever what to do. I always told people, I'm doing this. If you want to do the same, great. And when we said I'm going to protest at the door, and thousands of people would turn up, I'd have been a bit lonely without them. So, I appreciate your kind words, and it's humbling, and it's always emotional when people say things like that. But I can't really. I find it difficult to accept praise, because I was. We all done something. There's the fact I think it'd be hard push to find a Rangers fan that didn't do something at that, through those terrible times. But I appreciate your words.
We've got a caller joined us. It's our own Jaffa, who's part of our show, but he's phoned in. I think he's got something to let you ask you, Craig. Evening, Jaffa.
Hi, Ox. How you doing? Hi, Craig. How you doing, mate?
Hi, mate. Hi, Jaffa. Nice to meet
you. Craig, can I ask you? I listened intently there now. You speak very well, and obviously I admire all the stuff you've done at Struth, as the lads were saying there.
Thank you.
And just going back to some of the Club 1872 and your new role now. How would you say? Probably early days for you, and maybe unfair of you. You have to answer this. How would you say the relationship is currently between Club 1872 and the club itself?
I think it could be better. And I say that as somebody that spent, a lot of years just outside looking at it, and I think it could improve. I think the relationship needs to improve. I think it has to improve, and I think it deserves to improve.
And do you think there's any particular issues that would prevent that from happening?
I don't think so. No, if you think about it logically, you've got a body there, an entity there that's got roughly 5% of your shareholding. I think any business that has a shareholder of that level, sort of 5th or 6th in the pecking order, then, again, guys get the big boy pants on, and get on with it. I think, without speaking out of turn, I think sometimes when, people are asked questions, and some serious questions about something as passionate as a football club, when you're on the other side of those questions, you can sometimes take the defensive and think, oh, this is bad, you shouldn't be asking that stuff. And you can actually misinterpret a question because people asking questions are only asking questions because they're passionate about your football club. If somebody speaks to Rangers Football Club directors and say, I think you should do X, Y, and Z, I'm not saying it because they don't like Rangers. So your opinion might be different from yours. So you've got to accept that, and you've got to also accept that they're asking through passion and love, not through hate and despising you. So let's just be a wee bit more big boy pants on. Use that phrase too much, and I don't need to think of another one. But let's just be get the adult hat on and appreciate that people who have got concerns don't have them out of badness. It's actually the total opposite that drives people that have got concerns. Is that fair to say?
I think it is, Craig, and I think if anything, any walk in life, for anything to get done and get done proactively, you have to have two working parties that primarily want to do the same thing, or at least not be polar opposites. And I think sometimes in the last, long before your time, some of the recent press stuff that came out, referring to the club as with contempt being shown towards them and stuff like that. I don't think that, personally speaking, just my opinion, I don't think it embraces everyone together. I think there's better language that could be used.
No, I appreciate that. Are you talking about things that Club 1872 were saying publicly, the club, or who are we talking about?
Club 1872, some statements and stuff that were released, but back in March, for example, I remember.
I think it would say both parties, if I've been honest.
Yes. Yeah. Both parties did, yeah. There were both parties. The club as well we didn't speak very favourably of Club 1872. And I think to get the fans in, I think you've got to. That's got to be bonded together.
Without going into too much about that, because again we can personalise things and get drawn away from what is actually important. What maybe you should consider at this point, without me having to get into too much detail, is why I've come out of retirement, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've found some things unpleasant that I've seen going on and played out in public. By the way, I've been guilty of it in the past as well. There was a person inside Ibrox that I took umbrage with 3-4 months ago and wrote a very scathing article about them. So I'm maybe guilty of it as well, okay? But people personalising things and you go, hold on a minute, let's just communicate this a bit. And, I've maybe seen a couple of things, Club 1872 Rangers, directors, ex-chairman, current chairman, and you go, that's no pleasant. Can we just narc it and get on with it? And we'll never do that if we're not even in the same room. Yeah? And again, we're not talking about people stealing money off the club and, fishing hundreds and thousands of pounds out the back door, the situation we were in 2012, 13, 14 and 15. We're talking about people who have just got different opinions on what's right. That's what it is. Nobody's thinking folk are stealing, nobody's, and that's all it is. But I totally agree with you. I think there's been certain things played out in public that shouldn't have been. Yeah, get it. Well, can I disagree with that?
Good answer.
Jaffa, anything else before we'll move on and see if any callers come in and we'll start talking about the football. Anything else to ask, Jaffa?
No, that's me. All done. Thanks for your time, Craig. Appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Cheers, mate. Right, Billy Bridge, Craig, big week for the club. Started the league season. We've started dissecting that Monday and Tuesday. We've got a big European game coming up on, Tuesday. Arguably the biggest game of the season, as you would say, Bridge. Second game of the season. It's important we get it.
It's the biggest game of the season for sure. Up to now, it's the biggest game of the season.
But Europe, Billy, is a big thing for the club, innit? Europe. If we've never seen anything in the last few years, how important a European run is, Billy.
Of course, Sox, that's the way it is, mate. That's what our club wants to be competing on every single season, mate. You know what I mean? We want to be up there with the top teams in Europe. We want to be competing in the Champions League, and we want the best players in Europe to come and perform at Ibrox, and we want to go and challenge ourselves as a football club against the best and the elite teams in Europe. And that's what it's all about, Ox, and that's what we should be striving for as a football club every single season. The Champions League is the creme de la creme type thing. You know what I mean? That's where everybody wants to strut their stuff, mate, as a professional football player. And you want to be testing yourself against the best footballers right round the full of Europe, mate. And that's where Rangers Football Club should be. Cheers, mate.
Craig, double-edged question for you. Same question, how important that is, but also in 2000. I can't remember the dates. 2016 was it when John and Dave King and Paul Murray came in?
Yeah.
2016. Yep. Do you think what they've done? How quick we've rose and back to a European final? I don't think any has imagined that would happen so quickly, did they?
The only trip stumble that I seen was Motherwell beating us in the playoff. The rest of it's when. Listen, we'd all want to be in the Champions League within 2 or 3 years. We don't think anybody would have been brave enough to dream about getting to another Europa final. But I think that was probably the only stumbling block that time. And again, that was the full season. The regime after regime change, that was part and part. But if we'd got that, that put us a year further up the park. It's a wonderful journey. People from the outside, if they actually looked at it, the Rangers story for 1872 up to 2012 was fairy tale stuff, but the journey from 2016 to 2022 is just phenomenal. I mean, we were in Seville. I take it most of you were there, and our club, people wanted our club dead 10 years before that. We went through 4 years after that of getting rogues and vagabonds ripping us financially apart. And we still got to a European. I'd so dearly loved to as I won it. It'd have been phenomenal, but it wasn't to be, and it was small margins. You know,
we never get beat. We never get beat.
Correct, and it was a wee bit of hesitancy at the back. You know, at the front post with Goldson, a wee bit more composure with Kent.
No. Yeah. If Scott they don't get me started.
And the width of that, the goalkeeper studs for one of the penalties, the width of the post for one of theirs, it's a different story. It's a different ending. But you know, we didn't get beat, and it was as small as the margins that stopped us getting the trophy. And where we were, unbelievable, just unbelievable. It's movie stuff.
Same question to you, Bridge.
Well, 2012 to 2016 was just a different world, wasn't it? We were walking about like zombies, didn't know where we were. We're fighting, we're way back for the pits of God knows where. I don't know how we did it. It was people like the sons of Struth and so on and so forth that managed to garner strength and build up. And I thought it was great. And I was part of the long queues. And once we started, when King came in, made a huge difference. And he built his board up and all the way through to now. And yes, you're absolutely right, 100%. You look at some of the performances we've had in Europe, some of the runs we've had in Europe. That particular run where Motherwell were allowed to bully Rangers on the pitch and off the pitch, and the FA did nothing about it. But there's nothing we can do now. But I don't think it'll ever happen again. That's for sure. But look at us now, and yet big game coming up against Livingston, massive game against Livingston, and then an even more massive game because this is the first of 4 that could get us through into the Champions League itself. And if we can get in there and get whatever extra money is available to us, the world better watch out. The world just better watch out. Fantastic. Great future for us. Great future. And I hope it's better than the last 10 years of development. Hope it gets better.
So, obviously, we've got Saturday, you the way first. Billy, have you had any thoughts? Would you mix and match the team, or would you go for a team looking at Tuesday? Would you protect any players, i.e. Ryan Jack, for instance? Would you play him, maybe not play him on a plastic pitch, but keep him fresh for Tuesday? What's your thinking, mate?
Well, that's a good question, Ox. I've had a good hour there, mate, to sit and contemplate my starting 11. What I would pick. It was me picking the team, mate. But I think Gio had one eye on the European game, but he'll want to make sure first and foremost
3 points,
that he gets the 3 points in the bag, mate. Exactly. So we'll get Livingston out the road first, mate. He'll know what players are fit and healthy, and he'll know what players that'll do him a job in both these games, mate. I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't think Jacko will play on Saturday. I think he'll rest him up for during the week. So I don't think Ryan Jacko will start, mate.
Mm-hmm. All right, on Saturday, but you think he'll start on Tuesday?
Yes.
All right, interesting. Craig, any thoughts?
I think if you look at certainly the last couple of friendlies, there's not been as many changes as you would normally get. You know, we've all been to friendlies. I'm not a big fan of friendlies. They're great. You know, the team need them, but as a spectacle, they can sometimes be a bit boring and non-competitive. And it was interesting to see the lack of that, i.e., you know, changing the full team at half time or putting 10 subs on at the goal, certainly on Saturday there. They seems to have not. Maybe he's got 1 or 2 positions that he's not. You know, it looks as if, you know, the back four will be the back four and the forward line will be the forward line, and maybe a couple of tweaks in midfield. So, and again, you know, you were alluding to there that we have got a lot of games, and we've got some players in our team that maybe having them out. I'm not saying they couldn't play 2 games in quick succession or 4 games in a fortnight, but you get better at them by not playing them. In 90 minutes in 4 games in a fortnight. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there. But it certainly looks as if the rest of the positions are sort of he's got them settled, doesn't it? Oh, can you guys do me a favour, by the way?
Aye, depends what I
Tell Big Stevie.
I'm saying aye.
could you tell Big Stevie the Club 1872 can't do anything about the pies at Ibrox?
He says, I've mentioned it once or twice, mate. His rationale is they're no big enough, mate.
Exactly. Imagine trying to get a pie big enough for that mouth.
Oh, you can say that. I can't. You know, he's a top volunteer as well, Stevie. Bridgeman, what's your rationale for Saturday, Tuesday? What's your thinking?
Personally speaking, he's going to have to pick a strong team for both, obviously, and it may even be the same team for the two nights. And I think we have to be up for it. Whatever we're going to do, we've got to be up for it, because both games have got to be won. No matter what happens, we've got to win.
Do you think you can plan Tuesday to Saturday's finish, mate? Because you can have all the planning in the world, and then somebody gets a wee knock and you can't play them.
I think the manager has got to have things in his mind at the moment as to how close these guys are. Even the new guys that come in, they look great on the preseason friendlies. Whether in fact he thinks they're going to be great for a qualifier in the European Champions, I don't know. Personally speaking, I think he should be going for the strongest team, like we've spoke about every week when we talk about it. He goes with the strongest team in his mind, and obviously with that, with the back of his mind, will these guys be able to play? I don't want him to go in and Saturday and say, right, 12 o'clock at Livingston, let's put the reserves in. No, I don't want that. I want them out there with a strong team and take the 3 points.
That'll not happen. But it's whether, for instance, I think McLaughlin will start on Saturday, but Alan McGregor will start on Tuesday, bizarrely. And I think that Ryan Jack, I agree with Billy, I don't think he'll start. I think it'll be Lundstrom and Kamara who'll start on Saturday, but you'll see Ryan Jack appear for Tuesday potentially, yeah.
Well, that's what I was meaning about. The manager's got to have his own thoughts and his team. They've got to have the idea of what they want for Tuesday and how they're going to get there. But the first thing they need to get in their mind is, how do we win on Saturday? How do we win on Saturday? And that's the most important thing, because every game, as it comes, we've got to win it. Or do well, at least, you know. We've got to win it.
Ox, I think, see for Saturday's team, I think it'll be more a what we've already came with before, if you get me, type thing. Like, you know, see the guys that's maybe are just new in the door. I don't think you'll maybe your likes of Tom Lawrence will maybe get a wee game in there and the big laddie Struth. I think that'll really be one of the wholesale changes, mate, for maybe a starting 11 that was similar to last season. But I think in you maybe get a couple of changes the opposite way for the game during the week, if I'm perfectly honest with you, mate. I think that's the way he'll go, because he'll know that he's wanting to get the 3 points on the board first, mate. Before we get considered thinking about the European game, mate. But I think that's what the team will be like. You know, it'll be similar to what we've already watched.
Mm-hmm. Craig, what's your thoughts on the transfer business we've done?
I think it's been good. I like it. I know, seeming folk, what do you think of this winger, mate? I mean, he can do 20 metres in 2.3 seconds. Like, aye, with a ball, right? And but he's as quick as Usain Bolt. Well, I've seen Usain Bolt's highlights reel for when he played football in Australia, and that wasn't too great. So I think sometimes we buy into the you know, we make the decisions before they've even kicked the ball. But this year, I've not seen too much to be this happened with the signing so far. The boy Tondo's, he's quick and he can do a ball. Boy Lawrence is looking good in the that first touch he ever had playing for us. And I think the centre forward, he scored 2 goals. If you bear in mind the one in Blackpool he took, and it was offside. And the 2 goals are, I like it a centre forward, and it's inside the width of those 2 posts. 1 touch, bang, and he knows where the goal is, and he's no having to rocket them. McCoist was great at it. He would pass a ball into the net 9 times out of 10, get it in. And I think, a couple of wee competitive goals for him, I think you'd really get him rolling. And it'd be interesting to see with a fit Morelos and a fit him, who becomes first choice, because if that boy can start and get a couple of goals in him, it's a hard thing to do is change a centre forward that's scoring a goal. Same with a goalkeeper keeping clean sheets, it's a difficult thing to displace them. So that excites me, that I think we've got about, it's maybe a bit harsh hitting, just never ever worked for him. And Ruth, that amazing goal he scored in Belgium in the rain, that boy's bags of talent. But sometimes you may be a bit harsh on his. I don't think any of them were proper alternatives in competition for Morelos. I think with that company, Morelos was always going to start when fit and when known Colombia. So it'd be interesting to see where it goes with a season with proper competition. And this boy looks as if he could certainly provide that. Could you see the two of them playing on the park at the same time? Well, he does some stuff. I was trying to remember when you were talking. I remember the European game. He came out at half time and went 3-5-2. He's not scared of that. Whereas Warburton, if you remember, he was very rigid with his system and his formation. Gerrard was a wee bit, hesitant to make tactical change personnel, fine, but maybe no. And we've got the defenders now that you could probably have a comfortable 3-5-2 without putting Lundstrom. I couldn't even say Lauder up there. Imagine him playing centre back. If you remember that night, Lundstrom went back into the centre back position. But it's maybe a formation that he's got his eye on, and God, imagine they two fit and firing on all cylinders. Could maybe do with one defender, because we could probably score about 4 goals a game and lose 3. But it's a possible, and a 3-5-2 would maybe get the personnel to suit it now. I'm not saying for every game, but there must be games at Ibrox where we've been honest, we've not done enough players in the box at times, yeah? Well, if you look at what we play against, we very rarely play against a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3. We're generally playing against a 4-5-1 or a 5-4-1. Or a 10-1. Or Craig Levine 4-6-0 or a 6-4-0 we see against us. So, you've not got the same pressures with your defenders, even with a fast break. And generally, even when we play a 4-5-2 or a 4-3-3, whatever you want to call the current formation, you've got one of your fullbacks battering on anyway. So having only 3 at the back, maybe not, and we've probably got the personnel to really give that formation a go this season. Mm-hmm. It will be interesting. I think you're right. I think Giovanni is somebody who'll tweak and change at times. Maybe more so that he's got his own players in. Billy? He will do, mate. He definitely will. He's got a big horn for in the midfield now, mate. You can, for talking's sake, even Craig touched on a 3-5-2 there. I'd like to see Rangers playing a 4-4-2. I love that formation. And you could, just off the top of my head, Ox, you could go Matondo down the right, you could take Kent on the left, and you could take Lundstrom in there, and you could take Tom Lawrence in there, mate, with Morelos and Kolak up front. I mean, how frightening would that be? That's a proper midfield and a proper attack, So that's just a wee one right off the top of my head there. But regarding the 3-5-2, mate, that's a great idea as well. You've got width and depth there as well, you know what I mean? And you've got the defenders now there that can play as a 3 in the back. You know what I mean? There's a lovely balance about the defence there as well, if you wanted to go with a 3 as well, mate, Don't mention 3-5-2, Bridgeman. Yeah. I'm a big fan of 3-5-2. However, I have to say that I don't think we've not got the players fit enough at the present moment. We desperately need someone like Helander to come in to be the left-sided. Would Ben Davis not be up? Well, it could be. I haven't seen him play, so I really don't know. No, Nene's up yet. He's only played 45 minutes against Queen's Park, mate. Yeah. Only the manager at the present moment would know. I'm just meaning we're looking for someone who's left-footed, naturally left-footed, that can play down the left-hand side, and there you go. You've got Suter and Golson. I think it would be Doddle. And can I come back in there? Oh, of course. On you go, Craig. On you go, mate. I've watched them through the TV, only the friendlies, right? And you don't see the full game, and you don't see, the full formation and stuff. But you always impressed me. It was that boy's hands. I don't think he does much wrong. And he was one at the end of the season when he was coming in. Listen, I don't think he's going to be a Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, but I think he's maybe got a better game in them than maybe I thought, and maybe a few other people thought. At the middle to the end of last season, that boy could just be potentially, have a part to play this year. I thought, for what I've seen, limited, albeit on TV, that he's not done too much wrong, and he looks as if he could, maybe a wee bit of settling in the second half of last season, and could
hard
be
hard in the tackle, fast, relatively fast, keeps it simple on the ball. Yeah.
Aye, the Americans are good at that, you know.
But what I noticed at Blackpool was he lost every header.
Mm-hmm.
When the big centre forward pulled off goals and went on his hands every time.
Right.
Particularly in the first half, when Blackpool had a wee bit of pressure, he lost every header. The boy knocked on everything.
Right.
But where he's a centre half, but he might be. Listen, this time last year, who would have Calvin Bassey in your starting 11? Craig, let's be honest.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story if you don't mind about him. Coming back for the game in Seville, our resort was about an hour away, and I was sitting next to a boy. I'll not mention his name because he plays for a Scottish Premier League team, and it may be in Banter, and it's not the Rangers. And I said to him, I said, that boy there, I mean, funny enough, I said to him, he's the one player in your squad that I think's got a massive move in him. And by the way, I don't think Ajax is his massive move. I think he's got another one. If he can, and it's a big if he can progress the way he has in the last 12, 18 months, I believe that boy could be a real top team, and I mean bigger than Ajax. And he says, he played against him when he first signed for Rangers. And he's like, I'm as a bear, and I'm looking at him going, listen, 150 grand, it's not much of a gamble, but he's not going to make it. He said, I can't believe the difference in that boy. And he's got two assets that are very, very, valuable, and that is his pace and his strength. And remember in Seville, he had a stumble, and the boy broke him. He get back and tackled. I'm behind that goal going, oh no. As soon as he stumbled, I thought, this boy's getting a shot off here, and you don't know what's happening next. He made that tackle. And you're like,
he was only one in the pitch. He could have made that tackle.
His pace and his strength. And I remember when he first started, I'm sitting up, he came on as a sub-1 game, and I've turned to my boy and I went, see him? He's a month younger than you. My boy's a big beanpole, 6 foot, thin boy. And you're like, what's this boy going to end up? Honestly, and that was my words coming back for Seville. And I don't think Ajax, but we've all seen players that have had potential and they've filled that potential. So it is an if. But if he does kick on again, 22-year-old, is he? Is he 23 yet? See, by the time he's 26, 27, and that contract, if he stays at Ajax, is running out. He might not be there long. And, 22 million might look like a steal.
All right, we've been joined on the way for Australia. Evening, Big Al.
Evening, gentlemen. Craig, do you mean to come back to a bigger club or come back to Rangers then?
Didn't he say when he come back to Rangers? I just said go to a bigger club in Ajax. That left the door open for a move back to us,
Aye, of course we will. That's he's a cracking big player. Well, it's a great pleasure to hear your dulcet tones on the radio, mate. Better than
voice
your face on the back of the paper. You're in good company there. Everybody on this has got faces for the radio. But I'd like to ask you, Craig, who's your greatest Ranger?
Bill Struth.
Bill Struth. What's your favourite food?
What?
I just want to get a bit of background.
I had a crispy pancake last night. Does that count?
Was that a curry one or mince one?
No, my fridge freezer was broke for too long there, and I had eventually, I went and got a new fridge freezer. So I was up Iceland the other week, the other day there, and I pulled it up in nonsense. I'm not doing for I was away, and I'm getting some crispy pancakes. Anyway, my favourite food is the Indians Nakada up Duke Street, just off Duke Street, and they do. If I go in, I don't need the menu. Because they do a scallop starter and they do beautiful, and they do it's chicken tikka inside a minced curry. And if you've never had a minced curry before, don't laugh till you've tried it. That's my favourite food.
That's all right. Great bit of background about you, mate. Like, I think it's a positive move. When I seen that a couple of weeks ago, or whenever it was that you've took up that role, I think it's a great move by Club 1872 to put something in place. I don't know how it came about, and I don't really care, but I think to have somebody with yourself, with your pedigree, if that makes sense, with you putting your head right above that parapet, mate, and taking the personal shots, I think, and it says a lot about your own integrity and as a man. I don't know you if I had them, but I feel as if I know you slightly. So I think that goes a long way in proving the relationships. I mean, on this radio station, they've been calling out for somebody for Club 1872, and it's very refreshing that somebody new has came on. So I'd like to thank you for that, and I hope we move forward. And I think, reiterating some of the things that you said, I think within the Rangers community and that, it is never personal. It's just that we're all passionate about our club and we all want our club to succeed. There's other people a wee bit more passionate than others. Some people are slightly more sensitive than others. Yep. And I think that's...
You're known for your sensitivity, aren't you?
Oh, I am known for my sensitivity. Just ask my wife and the 4 kids in the dug. They know I'm very sensitive. No, but I do think it's passionate. I mean, yourself, Fox, you've been asking. You've put the invite out a few times. Maybe more than a few times. And now we've got... you've got the person in for Club 1872. I'll certainly look at it a lot more now that there's somebody there that I feel I can trust. Does that make sense? No, and as I say, for everything you've done, mate, I'm out here in Australia, and for years I was opening up the paper, and you were the first face I seen every morning. You know what I mean? So I know.
Whereabouts in Australia are you?
I'm just over in Sydney, mate. At the moment, I'm up in the Pilbara region. I work up there. I do FIFO. So I'm calling you through the middle of the Pilbara desert in my donga. You know, right?
What did you say there? But you're what?
My donga.
All right, okay.
That's what they call your room, like.
Yeah, all right.
Screen or that. No, that's Jerry, and that was a brand name like Hoover.
I know that, mate. I know that, mate.
Sorry. Aye. So no, all very positive. Just one other thing, Craig. I think it's time to forget. We always remember where we've come from. I think it's now time to really focus and look forward. It grates me slightly that people where we've came from, where we've been the last 10 years and all that. I think it's time to just let that go and just solely focus on the future. We've what's happened. Yeah, I think it's more positive.
Aye, listen, I think football fans by default are positive. And that, unfortunately, why football fans, I'm not talking about Rangers here, I'm talking about football in general. Football fans are open to abuse by people like your Charles Greens and the nonsense they talk. Because see if I wanted to rip the heart out of a football club and take as much money, I could probably do it tomorrow. Because all you need to do, the book says, I could write the book, you turn up at a club, you borrow somebody else's money to do it, it's not yours, and you tell them, our ambition is to get us back in the Champions League, or our ambition is to get us back in the Premiership, or our ambition is to get us back in the second tier, whatever it is in whatever country you're, and just talk absolute nonsense to them, because we want, by default, we don't want people like me turning up in 2012-13 going, this isn't right. We want to hear positives about our clubs all the time. But one thing we've got to do is we've got to learn the lessons. Right now, in 2011, if we'd asked any Rangers fan, do you think we'll be in administration within 12 months and be run by vagabonds within 12 months? Nobody would have believed you. And that's how quick it happened. It wasn't that soon after going to Kilmarnock and win the league, we were an admin. And then, all the nonsense after that. So we've always got to learn from that. And that's why I'm still always looking and maybe reading between lines and stuff. I can't help it now. I wish I could. I wish I could. I believe me, I'm no bullshitting when I say this. I wish I could not care about Rangers other than who's going to be playing right back on Saturday. I'd love to be that guy again. But that's where my journey's got me to where I am. But I think sometimes we can delve on it and spend too much time on that was to winning Seville. That's sort of getting to Seville, and winning 55. These things were just, and hopefully get to the Champions League. Imagine that. Those three things, bang, 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 year after year. 55, Europe final, get to the Champions League. That's
well, for me, that 55 was the line. We've done that. I mean, we've spoken here quite a few times in regards to what's going to shut everybody up. It's not going to shut them up, but for me, getting that 55 is that line drawn in the sand. That's where we just power on. We keep our throats we keep our foot on the throats of Scottish football, and we just keep going for that point. It's a great starting point for us for moving forward. Go at the 55. It's something that nobody can ever take away from us. Like, you know,
it's certainly the biggest title victory in my lifetime. And the only unfortunate thing was because of COVID, the Rangers fans deserved 50,000 years there enjoying that day, and we were done out of that. But it was what a buzz! It was just so emotional, wasn't it? It was 9 in a row.
That line.
I was there the first time, you know, when I started. I got my first season ticket, 81-82 season, and I had to see us win the leagues, winning the
You're lying there, you know. You were all dead. You know.
Are you going with the pictures up?
I'm going with the pictures. Right?
He's terrible. I thought he'd have been made welcome on you, Rocks.
Oh, you're made welcome.
Now, you know, I've seen a few important titles in my time, but that one was just so special. It was great. It was emotional, very emotional. Very emotional.
Right. Also undefeated.
Right.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Look, I'm going to go, boys. I need to go and get something to eat. But a real pleasure, Craig. I wish you all the success in the future. I'll keep my eye on 1872 now, and a big shout out to yourself for putting your head above the parapet, mate. There's not a lot of people had the balls to do it. Well, you've got to be loud sometimes, haven't you? you and your mates. Look, nobody can take that away from you. You done it. You done a lot more than a lot of other guys done. I suppose we'll tried our best. But certainly, I think you go down in club history as one of the greats. Time will tell. Time will. You done what you done.
I never set foot in the park. So,
by the way, take the compliments for him, because he doesn't get them out that often. Let's be honest.
Aye. Watch yourself with that one. Watch yourself. And Bridges, well, watch yourself with him, I know. And where's Gravy Boy? Is he in that Cluna state?
We're trying to get him educated, mate. We're going to have to send him to a finishing school, mate. You know.
Finish, for women, right? No. Okay. Get Dr. Doolittle or something. What's his name? No, actor. Right. Anyway, thanks very much again, Craig. Thanks very much to Rangers Radio for putting the shows on. Keeps all us guys happy. Take care. All right.
Cheers, Al.
No, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Bye.
All right, Billy. I think you've got something you want to ask Craig, mate.
Aye, I'll tell you what it is, Craig. Right, there's something that just it's been eating away at me for the administration, mate. Right now, I remember when we all do, when your man White took us to the cleaners, basically, right? Do you think, mate, that when the Rangers never qualified for Europe that season, that he'd put all his eggs in one basket, and that could have bought him time at that particular time to show to kid on he had money that he didn't have in the first place, mate? Because I always remember when Jelic came out, remember when Jelic gets sold and Ali McCoy's came out of Ibrox that night and it was absolutely fizzing. That's always been in the back of my head, mate, and it was just a gut instinct that I had, that he knew exactly what he was doing, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I need to be careful how I answer this. And the reason I need to be careful is very simple. That man went into a court of law and was found not guilty. Okay? Yeah. But so was O.J. Simpson. Right? Mm-hmm. So I need to be careful. And I need to bear that in mind before I give you my answer. Mm-hmm. I think that all that done was delayed the inevitable.
Right.
You were always going to enter administration because that was a plan. And let me tell you how I can back that up, right? If you remember, there was a photograph taken and we played Hearts the first game after he took control of the club, and he was walking along Edmondson Drive in front of the building, and there was 5 or 6 characters behind him, and I call it the Reservoir Dogs photo because it was similar to that type of thing, or the mobster coming up in That was a photo that was in the back papers and the front pages, that particular weekend. 3 of the guys that were there worked for the administrator that put us into administration.
Yep.
Why, when you buy a club or a company, would the first day you walk into that company have administrators with you?
It makes no sense, eh?
I think there's also a photograph of the guys sitting in the director's box, and it was
That's right. It's the same characters. The same characters. So, but that's the one that's in my head. Then I refer to it as the Reservoir Dogs. So, if that's who you turn up in day one, and then if you remember, I actually at the time read it wrong. The day we went into admin, he flew across the M8 to get to the court in Edinburgh, so he could make and put his administrator in place before HMRC went in and put their administrator in place.
Mm-hmm.
See, that time I thought, Christ, that's a good thing, because at least HMRC's administrators might just have carved us up and sold us off, in pieces to the highest bidder. At least with his administrators will be safe. Little did I know. It was probably the worst thing I got wrong in my life, thinking that was a good move. Because we might have been out administration in a proper manner. To people like Brian Kennedy, getting a phone call the other side of the Atlantic to tell him to come back and table an offer, and he'd be doing Rangers, and he'd done that, to find out 24 hours later, Charles Green was given the preferential bidder status by a bid that was £500,000 more. Now, I'm not saying Brian Kennedy would have been the greatest owner of Rangers Football Club, but I think it was damn sight better than Charlie Boy.
But we don't know, do we?
Of course we don't. But I think his intentions were far more purer than Charles.
Can I come in on that just for a second?
Yes, but
just to remember, Craig, that all these things you're speaking about, 2011, I remember them vividly. And that wee man took over, wee White took over the Rangers, and there was only one thing he was going to do. He was going to cut them up. And that's what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Started the ball rolling, and we just sat and watched what going on. Well,
can you ever remember the set of accounts issued by Craig White's administration?
No.
Because he didn't need to.
Correct.
Imagine if he did. Imagine if he took it. That'd have been interesting reading, honestly. But
the thing that sticks in my throat is obviously also he wasn't paying the PAYE fee about August, yeah?
Well, aye, and I wish we were sitting in a pub and not putting things out in public, because I know that I can't, because I could.
I understand that. I don't know everybody will,
but it's horrific. I'm trying to think what I was going to tell you something I can't put in public, because I like not being arrested. I got arrested 4 times by the protest years and never charged. It was great. But first and only times I've ever been arrested in my life. And I don't want to relive that again, but tell me some stuff out.
Oh, Craig, I didn't want to put you in the spot there, mate. That was just my own personal opinion, mate, for what I had. Just I smelt a rat.
As far as the PAYE is concerned, that's just another bizarre thing. People in HMRC obviously knew we weren't paying PAYE, and it went on for 3, 4, 5 months before.
Doesn't normally happen like that, does it?
Hearts were put in administration the day after their due date. So why did HMRC deal with us differently? Again, the hurt is, we'd have been like fans on all the HMRC put us into admin. But in hindsight, that 4 months could have stopped a lot of money going out the way and might have put us in a better position. Yet Hearts were 1 day over their due date on their, I'm not sure if it was a VAT or PAYE, and bang, they were in administration.
My thinking as well, Craig, was...
Billy.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah,
no, it was just about the chat, the money.
Billy.
Sorry, on you go, mate. Right, no bother. Okay.
Right, okay. I get where you're coming from. We get it. We get it, Craig. And I know it's difficult to talk about because of what's happened in some of the courts, bizarrely, in Scotland. But look, it's important in the point that Champions League tie, funny enough, was against Malmo, who came back again in 2011. But I think we were at that competition. Am I right? Was it Malmo? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, right.
But we're there again, bizarrely, and it's all the Champions League. Is it about football or is it about money?
I think
you go first, Craig. You go first.
I think it's about both, right? And it's turning into one of the most prestigious club tournaments in the world. And from a football point of view, it's just one party. You don't want to be looking in for the outside. It's far better being in there, and it is. Tell me one more prestigious club tournament than the Champions League, and you get. And I tell you what, see the minute we walk into Ibrox and that big black and white boys in the centre circle and that theme tune goes, I'll probably collapse. You know what I mean? It'll be that emotional because we were spoiled. I remember my boy turned around to me one of the European nights the last couple of years, and he says, "That's what it used to always be like, Dad." And every year, son, for long enough. We just took it for granted, and the loud drops and the gases and all that stuff. And when it was taken away from us, I want the generate. My boy's 20-odd-year-old. Do you know what I mean? 20-odd-year-old. 20-year-old. I can't even get that out now. But you know what I'm saying? So I want them to get into the 3 years out of 4 or 4 years out of 5. It's the Champions League, and that becomes a norm for Rangers Football Club. It's the biggest tournament in the world for me in club football.
Billy, and you come, mate.
That'd be mental, mate. A player like Kolak, for talking's sake, when you look back to getting put out by Malmo in 2012, and then you look at big Kolak, who put us out with Malmo last season to get into the Champions League when he was playing in loan, is now playing with Rangers. It could possibly fire us into the Champions League. It's as if it's went full circle, Ox, you know what I mean?
These bizarre things seem to crop up now and then in sport, don't they?
Anti.
Yeah, bizarre as it is, Bridger.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just say, I'd like to sympathise greatly with Craig when he said he got arrested a couple of times when at Ibrox. I did the same thing. I've been arrested a number of times at Ibrox as well.
Did you get out of court, but did you actually?
No. I didn't get that far. You're right.
You get arrested in the minor strike and all. Did he know?
No, Bridge got arrested. It was a general strike. He got arrested.
It's some bad luck that way.
Bridge, what's your thoughts on European football in the Champions League? Is it about money, or is it about football, or did it show you last season it's still about glory? That night against Leipzig, mate, when people were in tears. And people it was disbelief that we were going to Seville, wasn't it? We just,
it's just wonderful, isn't it? Like a fairy tale. I have to say that the UEFA has turned out to be, over the last, say, 10, 15 years, a very political animal. So I think there's European politics involved with UEFA, and that goes right up to the very top. And you come down a wee bit and you get to the club level and you see club rivalry and even national rivalry and so on and so forth. But when you get to the fans, I think every fan goes to see their team playing in Europe, whatever competition it is. They obviously just want the best. And that last season there we had, and we got through to get to Seville, that would probably be the most emotional I've ever felt. Standing there watching my team at Ibrox, getting myself through, that was a most wonderful night for me. Really and truly, it was just fantastic. Sensational stuff. I
believe you nearly bought a round after that match.
Oh, my wallet nearly fell in my pocket, seriously.
Yeah. That doesn't happen often, Craig, if I'm honest.
Does he not get the round into the pies even at half time?
Nothing, mate, nothing. The only thing he refuses is blows.
Sometimes I don't have much to say when it comes to the blows as well. They rain down on you.
No, it was a great night, but I get it. How important it is for revenue, but if that showed us last year, Craig, the glory still is involved. All right, we ultimately failed, but for the couple of weeks after that game against Leipzig, people's lives changed. People were buzzing.
See that night
in between trying to get flights.
Aye, see that night, and I've just thought of something that's got me a wee bit emotional. I'll share with you. Andy Gorham was coaching our kids for the last 18 months, 2 years of his life, and I was messaging him every other day, if not every day, when he was taken into hospital. And I'm getting ready to go to the game that night, and I text him, "How you keeping?" "Aye, fine." "You got to watch the game?" "Aye." "What's your prediction?" He says, "Taft to score and Rangers to win 3-1. Right? So I'm not a big gambler, but I've got a wee account on the Sky Bet that I use for the National and all that nonsense, and maybe 2 coupons a year. So I put a £5 on it, or £6 or whatever. And I text him the sheet, and I says, "Look," I says, "I couldn't get Taft to score any time. I had to pick first or last. I hope you don't mind. I've picked first. And if this bet stoats, there's £200 in it for you." Right? That's what paid for me to go to Seville. I get £1,100 back that night. And it was funny because when the first goal went in, I've texted the goalie and I said, "That's leg part 1 done." And he went, "Do you think it will happen?" I went, "Well, I think I was the only person in my section that was quite happy when they scored the goal because I needed them to get one." And then I came out the ground and I've texted him and I went, "Yeah, belter." I says, "I'll sort that door when I got up the road." And I hadn't even walked from the main stand to the district bar, and he texted me twice to see if I'd been up the road yet. Brilliant. But see that when the whistle went and I was there with my boy, and it was an atmosphere that we might have had better atmospheres before in European nights because there's been many of them. But
I don't know, mate. I don't know.
It was phenomenal. It was just outstanding. It was just what a night. I'll never forget it. And it was maybe the goalie's last one in line. And aye,
it was some shout, mate. Some shout. 3-1.
Do you know, it was funny because when we was at his funeral on last Monday, McCoist was talking about him, and he said he was the worst gambler he ever knew. And I thought, I need to tell McCoist about the tip he gave me. To call that was good. So it was a bit of fun. But that night, the atmosphere was just incredible, wasn't it?
Right, okay. What's your hopes and aspirations for the season, Craig?
Well, the league has always got to be there. I think if we can get into the Champions League and win and bring the league back, that would be, and it's very achievable. Both of them, that would constitute a good result for me.
I think if we go to the Champions League, won the league, finished third in the Champions League, and stayed and competed in the Europa League, I think that would be a step in the right direction. Billy?
Hang on, mate. That'll do for me. I'll take that. We're no one to be greedy, mate. Like, listen, we're not kidding ourselves on. We've got the makings of a good side coming up there, Ox, right? And it's got to take Gio time to get his way of thinking across, just the same as he done with the previous players he had. But if you said to me right now, we qualify for the Champions League, win the league title in Scotland, and finish third and get into the Europa League, mate, I would break your fingers for it right now, mate.
Is it the demise of the cup competitions, Bridge?
You mean at a local level? Scottish, yeah. Well, I think let's put it this way: the European finances to get there and be part of the finances there supersedes anything in the UK or Scotland, or for that matter for us. The money you're getting for your cups and win in your league is pretty poor compared to a couple of games. Even a couple of games in Europe gets you a lot of money. So it's a huge task, and it's a great, shall we say, a great draw for the fans. The fans just love to be there, and that you're not a win-win in Europe. And the higher up in Europe you can be, obviously, the better it's going to be. So if we play right, do the job insofar as Saturday and then Tuesday, come back to bring them back to Ibrox, where are some to play for, and do the same as we did last season, win the games at Ibrox and do the business. That's how good it's going to be. We're going to start flying again. The fans will be are really up for it, and they're going to start going, and they're going in their numbers again. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's what they're going to feel, because there's everything there to play for. And if they can get the riches of the Champions League, brings a lot more money into Rangers. My God, what's going to happen to our club then? Fantastic, just fantastic to think about it.
Well, gentlemen, we've reached that time of the evening. Billy, I know you were only on for an hour, but It's flew by. Thanks, Billy. Thanks, Bridge.
No bother, Ox. It's always a pleasure to come on, mate. Thanks for asking us on. Thanks to Bridgeman and thanks to Craig. It's been good listening to you, buddy. You've done well for where we've came from, mate. I know you don't like to hear it again, but I'd just like to thank you very much again, mate, for everything you've done for the club. So all the best to you, pal, and bring on the Livingston on Saturday, Ox, and let's get 3 points, mate.
Bridgeman.
Oh, what can I say? What a fantastic night listening to Craig there. And I've followed Craig all the way through for the last 10, 12 years with the Rangers and so on and so forth. It's been really good, and he's been quite a character. And I wish him well and everything. And obviously, still be part of Rangers. For God's sake, please be part of Rangers. And for yourself, Oxtair, what a brilliant interview. Absolutely superb. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think everybody that's listened in has thoroughly enjoyed it. And speaking about people listening in, can I just say to all the Rangers fans all over the world, and particularly Rangers fans on here on Rangers Radio, every single one is, let's go up for the weekend. First 3 points on the board. Come on, Rangers. Keep it going for the Rangers. Everybody keep it going.
Brilliant.
Craig, yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks for taking the time.
No problem.
First and foremost. And by the way, feel free to come on again and let us know how your project's gone, yeah?
Yeah, but no problem at all. And listen, I can't thank you enough. You gave me a platform to talk to people listening and put my views on things and answer any questions. And I know I'm a mixed bag, and some people adore me, some people don't know who I am, and some people don't like me. I totally understand that. I don't have a problem with that. But one thing people will always get from me is they'll get a straight answer, and if that's a good thing, then great. And if folk can't accept that, I apologise. But you always get a straight answer. You always get an answer from me. And like everybody in the Rangers family, in the Rangers community, we all have opinions. That's all they are. They're only opinions.
I hope you've enjoyed it this evening, mate.
I have. It's flew, and when you were saying it was 2 hours, I thought, God, what are we going to talk about for 2 hours? But no, it's been great fun. And there's just, when you said that, and I looked at my watch, I thought, Chris, it's 5 to 10. But no, thanks for the platform. Thanks for some of the nice words. Use a station of passed on to me tonight. It's humbling. Any Rangers fans saying anything nice is always, quite humbling for me, as I've already said. And I don't think I'm nothing special. I'm just a bear that decided one day I had enough and opened my mouth. And unfortunately or fortunately, it's took me in a path. It's took my whole life in a path that I never envisaged back in 2012. And it's been a journey, and it's been enjoyable. And I hope just through the Sons of Struth Academy, I hope that's my legacy in the world. I hope that in 20, 30 years' time, that's still going. And it's doing what we wanted it to do in the future. And I hope in 20 years' time, if 30 years after I'm away, if anybody ever mentions the name Craig Houston and it's anything to do with Sons of Struth Football Academy, that'll do me.
Cheers, mate, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody that joined us tonight. Thanks to Craig Houston for taking the time to join us. Thanks to Fox and GB for doing the technicals. This has been Rangers Radio. We'll be back tomorrow night with Jaffer Ways with the one and only Big Stevie. Take it away, Foxy boy.
See